Big news in the NHL tonight. Corey Perry has been cleared by Gary Bettman for a return. We'll discuss what his potential contract may look like and where he may end up. We also have big news on the waiver wire with Montreal Canadiens losing a defenseman to the Anaheim Ducks. We also have a recall in Toronto involving Elias Samsonov. Never played a game, but he's back in the NHL. And we also have an update on Connor Bedard's injury. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have some fairly substantial news in the NHL we'll take a look at tonight. We will be back again with another video a little bit later with a few other details around the league as well. But first up, we got news from Elliotte Friedman and Sportsnet just here in the past hour or so that we got news that Corey Perry has been deemed eligible to return to the NHL. Now, in case you were living under a rock and you completely missed this story, it's one of the bigger stories from the current season. Corey Perry was terminated by the Chicago Blackhawks back on November the 30th. Of course, not long before that, he was taken off the roster and placed on waivers for contract termination due to an off-ice incident that took place while the team was on the road in Columbus. We don't know the exact details, and everything was kept pretty quiet, but GM Kyle Davidson basically described his behavior as being very inappropriate and unacceptable. And we know that the Blackhawks really, ever since the Kyle Beach controversy and everything that went down there with that cover-up, that they're pretty sensitive to, anything that's bad behavior or anything like that. Any other team, I do wonder if we would have had a different outcome, but because of everything that team has been through in the past, they're certainly taking things extremely seriously, which is good to see. It's just really tough to see how, this could lead to a termination. I was questioning whether or not the NHLPA would file an appeal on his behalf, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that they still technically are within the time allotted frame to do that, but we haven't heard that they were going to. Corey Perry did issue an apology and did admit that he was in the wrong. I don't know if they'll bother pursuing the Blackhawks. Basically, at this point, he's not going to get his job back because he's free to sign elsewhere, but he can, get money out of that contract. He probably won't be able to get a contract making as much money as the Blackhawks had him. I mean, they were overpaying him. Him and Nick Foligno both signed, pretty lucrative contracts to be the veterans on that team to lead guys like Bedard and the other rookies. And, he's probably not going to get that elsewhere. So it's hard to say. But where he'll end up is difficult to say. We know Perry, in his statement after everything went down, he did indicate that he was going to be seeking help for what had transpired. I assume, obviously, he's probably been through a type of program around that. He did meet with Gary Bettman, and Gary Bettman has given his blessing for him to return. Now, keep in mind, Corey Perry was never suspended by the NHL. He was never banned for any reason, so he did not need Gary Bettman's approval to return. This is something Corey Perry himself personally requested and wanted to meet with the commissioner just to kind of show what he had done, probably explain his side of the story and take a look at what he's done to better himself since that has transpired. Gary Bettman has since given his blessing for him to resume his career if he can get a contract with another team. I suspect he will be able to be signed. Difficult to say exactly where, but as long as he's on an NHL roster before the trade deadline passes, he will be eligible to participate in the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs. So obviously you take a look around the league. I mean, there are teams that certainly are out of the playoff race that could use some veteran help that maybe they want a guy like this around. I don't know. Obviously, they're going to do their due diligence on what happened and whatnot and see. But there's also teams that are going to be going for a Stanley Cup that would like an extra, veteran like him around to help with that push. Whether it be a team like Edmonton, for example, or you take a look at, I don't know if the Maple Leafs would want that. I'd probably not. There's other teams in Canada that would be interested, maybe Vancouver, Winnipeg. Hard to say. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in this player. Corey Perry's got a long, successful resume, and yes, he definitely made a mistake and did something he shouldn't have, which resulted in him getting terminated in Chicago, but I think overall his body of work speaks for itself, and teams, if the commissioner's good with it, they will be too, to give him another chance. So where he ends up, it's really difficult to say. But you can look at the standings. You look at all the teams that are, on track for a playoffs, and you can take a look and kind of narrow things down and figure out. I think there'll be plenty of interest. Colorado comes to mind as well as another one. So Edmonton came to mind too because they've had a lot of success with players that may have had, issues. Like look at Evander Kane. That's worked out quite well for them. Certain locker rooms will be able to handle it better than others, and there'll be options out there. So we'll see. Well, I'll be curious to see how quickly he gets a contract done. There's no rush. I would suspect we're probably going to start hearing some rumors and speculation about teams that may be contacting him over the next couple of weeks, and then I don't know exactly when he'll sign, but it wouldn't be surprising if it happens soonish, so to speak. So stay tuned for more updates on Corey Perry. As I mentioned as well, we had a waiver claim today. The Anaheim Ducks have claimed young defenseman Gustav Lindstrom off waivers from the Montreal Canadiens. Lindstrom's 25 now. He was originally a 2017 second-round pick of the Detroit Red Wings. He was actually having a decent little run with the Habs this year, but unfortunately, like I said, they do have a bit of a crowded blue line, all kinds of young talent there, and he had to go on waivers because they wanted to assign him to their minor leagues. Now, they acquired him this past offseason when they made the Jeff Petrie trade. So he came from Detroit in that transaction. He appeared in 14 games this year for the Habs. He scored 3 goals, put up 1 assist. He's a restricted free agent at the end of the year with arbitration rights, so I can understand why the Ducks, of all teams, would take a chance here. We've seen the Ducks make other moves from the waiver wire this year. They did pick up Lassie Thompson from Ottawa, didn't keep him too long, placed him back on waivers. After a couple games, they could see that maybe he wasn't a fit there. We'll see what happens with Lindstrom, but unfortunately for Montreal, they do lose this young prospect who seems to have a future, and I don't know how upset they are about it, though, at the same time, because they do have a crowded blue line. So, at the end of the day, he's off to Anaheim, and the Maple Leafs today also made a surprising recalling goalie Ilya Samsonov, who himself had been through waivers a couple weeks back. Cleared, of course, but that contract wasn't getting picked up, the inconsistent play. And then, of course, Samsonov goes down to the minors, but he never plays. He never played a single game with the Toronto Marlies. They made it clear that he was going to go down and wouldn't play for at least a week to 10 days. He was just going to have a mental reset, work with all the different coaches, and try to find his game, so to speak, through that method. But then I had seen just a matter of a few days ago, they were saying, maybe sometime in the next week, maybe Samsonov goes into a game for the Marlies, but he never did. Now, the rationale from what we're hearing is basically that Dennis Hildeby, who was the call-up from the AHL, that they don't really want to put the pressure on him in the NHL right now, and that they want him to play. They'd rather have him playing in the AHL, and for right now, I guess Samsonov is going to back up Martin Jones. So I guess they're comfortable bringing Samsonov in to back up. At some point, though, they're going to need him to play. I don't know. I guess maybe they feel comfortable that they're going to be able to give him another chance here in the short term, and I guess we'll see. I'm surprised he was recalled without ever playing a game. And Connor Bedard, of course, the young rookie sensation, was by far and away the leading contender for the Calder Trophy. We know he suffered an injury a few nights ago, of course, battling the New Jersey Devils, and we didn't know the full extent, except there was a jaw injury, and now we know he did end up having to have surgery. He's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks, so that is an unfortunate outcome. That does mean, though, that he'll be able to return this season, of course. That puts him back anywhere from the end of February to the early part of March. So he'll be able to get back in the lineup for the Blackhawks and kind of regain, his season and try to make a run for the Calder Trophy. He's going to certainly get a lot more stiffer competition now that he's going to be out for a while, and give other players a chance to kind of catch up here. Obviously, that means he's going to miss the All-Star game. He was a Blackhawks representative. I don't know for sure if they'll grant another player the ability to replace him. It is possible by the time they get to All-Star game, if he's up to it, maybe he still goes, but he doesn't play, and maybe he's just there to do the media and other stuff. I believe last year for the Seattle Kraken, when Matty Beniers wasn't able to go, I do believe they didn't give a replacement. So we'll see what happens. There's tons of other talented players who probably deserve to go more than other Blackhawks, so I'm not sure what the NHL is going to do in that regard. We'll have to wait and see. So certainly let me know your thoughts on all of today's news. Where do you think Corey Perry is going to end up? I suspect, like I said, that the interest in him is going to pick up and likely going to get a contract. I would say sometime in the next few weeks, but we'll have to wait and see. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around so you don't miss anything. We'll keep you up to date with all the news and rumors from around the entire 32-team NHL. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.